Welcome back to this episode of Health Reversion. This episode is going to be about all things vitamin B9. So let's get into it. Vitamin B9, also known as folic acid, contain a range of compounds called folates. Folic acid is the form found most often in synthetic or fortified versions, so fortified foods or synthetic vitamins, whereas folate is naturally occurring in the foods that we eat, as well as metabolically active forms already inside your body. Vitamin B9 is required for cell division, as well as the formation of RNA and DNA, as well as protein synthesis or metabolism. B9 plays a key role in breaking down a particular protein called homocysteine. If homocysteine levels get unchecked throughout the body and they rise over a long period of time, this can exert harmful effects on the body over the long term. Folate is also required to produce the iron-containing protein in hemoglobin, which is needed to make red blood cells. Therefore, it is critical during periods of rapid growth, such as pregnancy and fetal development. The recommended dietary intake, recommended dietary allowance or daily value for a garden variety stress-free person that's humming along in life is the 400 microgram mark. For someone with additional stress, it might be emotional or physical stress, or a breastfeeding woman for instance, then that moves up to around the 600 microgram mark per day. The following whole food sources are where you are going to be able to get your folate, so the natural form of B9, in the most effective way possible. So let's have a look at these whole food sources. First up is lentils. So a cooked cup of lentils contains 358 micrograms. So that's 90% of the recommended daily intake. Next up is beef liver. 3 ounces contains 212 micrograms, or just a little over 50% of the recommended daily intake. Broccoli, a cooked cup of broccoli will yield you 42% of your total daily intake. Asparagus, half a cup or 90 grams contains 134 micrograms or 34%. So just through half a cup of asparagus, you can get a third of your B9 requirements. Brussels sprouts comes in next. 1 cup or 156 grams contains 94 milligrams or 24%. So a quarter of your daily intake. Raw beets, so 1 cup will yield you 148 micrograms or 37%. Next up is raw spinach. So 1 cup or 30 grams contains 58.2 micrograms or 15%. 1 orange, a large orange contains 55 micrograms or 14%. 1 large egg contains 22 micrograms or 6%. And finally, we've got a couple of nut options here. 1 ounce of walnuts contains 28 micrograms or 7%. And flax seeds, 1 ounce or 28 grams contains 24 micrograms or 6%. In relation to toxicity, many of the vitamins have an upper intake level. And for B9, that ranges at the 1000 microgram mark. Taking more than this can potentially mask a vitamin B12 deficiency. So if the individual is already low in B12 and for whatever reason is taking really high amounts of B9, the high amounts of B9 will pick up the slack in relation to the red cell production and keep pumping out those red cells, making sure that part of that component of the body is met. But unfortunately, if this deficiency in B12 carries on for a prolonged period and vitamin B9 is having to do all this extra work, this can lead to damage to the brain and nervous system over the long run. In relation to deficiency, B9 works closely with B12 and also vitamin C to break down proteins for the formation of red blood cells. Therefore, a deficiency in B9 is going to directly affect B12 and also the role that vitamin C plays in the body. So they synergistically work together. They have certain codependencies where they rely on each other, and we need to be aware of these to ensure that we're getting these particular levels of vitamins so that all of them can do their jobs, all of them can effectively operate within our body. Some potential signs of a vitamin B9 deficiency include megaloblastic anemia, which is a reduction in the number of red blood cells. You might experience muscle fatigue, headaches, irritability, difficulty concentrating, and also shortness of breath. I've put in a few additional points in relation to B9, which I feel that the viewer will benefit from. So there's just 3 points that I'm going to quickly cover now. It's important to note that alcohol does have an impact on the B vitamins. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't drink or drink regularly. It just means that you need to ensure that those uptakes of the B vitamins are sufficient, because alcohol unfortunately does have a negative impact where it does chew through the B vitamins, particularly B1 and B9. Alcohol essentially interferes with the absorption of these vitamins and also speeds the rate at which they're excreted through the body. The need for folate increases significantly during pregnancy, as it plays a significant role in the development of the cells in the fetus. And finally, on these additional points, genetic variants. People carrying a variant of the gene MTHFR cannot convert folate to its active form in the body, and therefore might benefit from supplementing with the active form. So I'm not a proponent of supplements, but in certain cases, particularly with these genetic variants, it may be beneficial for the person to supplement with an activated form of B9. Lastly, in relation to cooking, a friendly reminder, as always with the water-soluble B vitamins, retain those juices, retain the water that you cook it in. I know if you're cooking broccoli and Brussels sprouts, the water isn't that great, but it's full of nutrients, it's full of the B vitamins, so if you can incorporate it somehow, excellent. And last tip on the cooking, the preference is lightly steaming. That's going to retain the most amount of the vitamins, followed by microwaving, and then finally boiling. So the preference is a lightly steaming those vegetables to retain those nutrients. That's it for today. If you've got anything that you can contribute in the way of knowledge about vitamins, or your experiences with supplements or these particular foods that we've discussed today, please leave a comment down below. In the meantime, I ask that you keep well, and I'll see you in the next episode.